Hello and welcome to the G3 Pulse podcast. My guest today is John Connelly, the global CEO of ETG specialist Interblock. John, good to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Lewis. Thanks for having me.
I was trying to work out before we came on here that I think we met in St. Petersburg I think it was 2003. I think we shared a taxi from the Unicum factory opening. And since then, we've pretty much been running into each other at different shows, conferences, exhibitions, pretty regularly. London, then usually Italy. I had a favorite pub in Rimini there. We would meet in Macau and then obviously Las Vegas. And what's happened recently is, you and I have had this kind of fire break of a couple of years imposed on us, and we haven't seen each other. So there was a kind of an opportunity to meet up again. But also, you've had some big news recently. 2 months back, you sold, you acquired, you sold the business, and I just wanted to catch up with what's been happening in the meantime, because, there's been quite a lot going on.
Yeah, I just wish you didn't use an example from 2003 and remind me how old I am. But yeah,
you're wearing much better than I am.
Yeah, well, it's been a long road, my friend. It's finally good to catch up. I think this G2E coming up in Vegas is going to be one of the bigger ones in a while. People are ready to get out of their houses or travel and re-engage. So excited about that. But we sold the company a couple months ago. It was a process that was taking, we were working on that for close to 2.5 years. We started in Wall Street 2019. And then, obviously the due diligence process, negotiation, and then licensing during COVID took longer than anticipated. So finally made it over the finish line, and we have a new private equity owner, which we're very excited about, Oaktree Capital, and we'll see what the next chapter brings for the company.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the pandemic, actually, what that actually meant in terms of obviously running the company and the business, but also obviously getting this over the line in terms of the transaction too. It must be a challenging period to do that in the first place, but especially challenging given all the kind of hiccups that came along with with COVID as well.
Yeah, I think Oaktree is one of the few private equity firms in the world that decided to, be licensed in all of our jurisdictions, over 300, whereas a lot of private equity, Taylor picked where they would get licensed and the acquisitions they were making. It's very cumbersome process, as you know. So. I think that the fact that Oaktree is now licensed is going to provide tremendous opportunity to move quickly in the future on various M&A opportunities and growing the company. COVID delayed a lot, as you can imagine, from a regulatory perspective and just globally in general, logistics and other forms of business. But for us, we were blessed that COVID, although it was a very difficult time for the industry, for Interblock, it really accelerated, unbeknownst to us initially, some of our forecasts and strategic planning processes we'd put in place. COVID seemed to be a quite strong accelerator in the industry from both an operator and player perspective. So silver lining at the end, and here we are, and things are still moving ahead quite rapidly. So fortunate for that.
Cool. One of the things I wanted to ask, obviously, we saw that Jock Pecknick was stepping back as chairman. Are there any other personnel changes that we should be aware of? I think at last count, your team was just below around 300 or so. Is everything staying the same basically, or in terms of the kind of changes, or are there any kind of big changes coming our way as well?
No, lots of changes. So Jock, I had two partners, obviously Jock being the founder. They both sold 100% of their stake in Interblock. So they are enjoying life and probably having a lot less stress than I am at the moment. So Oaktree bought 100% of the company, and we've established a management incentive plan. So we'll issue equity to a lot of our employees.
Okay.
In summary, the company, we're private, so we don't share too much. But what I
Yep.
will share is that, when I joined in 2015, we had about 160 employees. Fast forward to today, between employees and FTEs, we're broaching 700 now.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, yeah.
Much larger, and the business from 2019 till today, has more than doubled in 36 months.
Okay.
Being a 25-year-old company, and to put it in perspective, so it's really taken off. And I think the timing, we were very fortunate, because as that acceleration happened, very capital intensive business we run, we lease a lot of our products, as you know, around the world.
Yep.
So having Oaktree and having private equity there during COVID with the bankroll that they are known for, proved very beneficial in allowing us to maintain that growth rate and demand within the industry.
Okay. One of the obviously the key employees that you just recently announced, and this is a series of weeks ago, was Marco Herrera. Again, a long-term kind of collaborator, and I just wondered what was the kind of opportunity there, and what have you tasked Marco in terms of his role? We'll be speaking to Marco, I think, in the next week or so. So I'll be using your comments back at him, of course.
Oh boy. Well, no, Marco and I, as you know, we worked together for many years. I ran international at Bally, and eventually some other things before the end there. But had the opportunity to work with Marco, amazing executive, and quite frankly, he ended up staying in Europe in various capacities, eventually running Europe for Bally and then Psy Games after the transaction.
Yeah.
He was there over 15 years, I believe. So when he came back, it was a perfect opportunity with this transaction and the change going on with my partners leaving. I needed someone to really take the helm over in Europe and evolve it into what we thought the potential was. And Marco was the perfect candidate for that. Very excited. He's now moved to Europe. He's over in our European office as president of Europe. We have a great CFO we brought on, who was one of the leading financial executives for Melco Crown. So for Lawrence O and James Packard, Heather Rollo just came back. We have, like I said, from 160 to 700 people, we've grown tremendously, and lots of new faces. We tend to not do as many press releases and promotional events for our company due to being private, not really necessary. Like to kind of fly under the radar and just do what we need to do and keep others hopefully at bay is the strategy.
Too many surprises for us, John. That's what's happening at the moment. And one of the things about the announcement that you made in June about the acquisition from Oaktree was that you were talking about Interblock's momentum, concentrating on organic growth, and you mentioned there about acquisitions as well. Where do you see the company going now? What's its trajectory?
Well, I think at a very macro perspective, we'd very much like to have Interblock be synonymous with table games, no matter what you say in table games, any form of table games. I'm a big proponent of the trending and future outlook of the table game offering within the gaming sector, whether it be online in the traditional sense, various distribution methods. The younger demographic statistically is definitely migrating more towards table game type of transactions than historically what we'd seen in slots. Not that there's not a tremendous demand for slots, but we tend to be more focused. So I think a lot of the foundation we've been building the past 6 years in traditional casinos with our brands, our play action, mechanical, electrical technology, we think will proliferate itself into other distribution mechanisms. So when you have that in mind, I think about M&A, what is synergistic to Interblock in relation to table games, and all the things we've learned and are learning each day at Interblock. And with Oaktree, when you're talking about private equity versus being somewhat on your own and having, bank loans and leverage and things of that nature that prohibit you from doing certain things, with private equity, and especially Oaktree being one of the largest in the world, you're able to acquire things much larger than yourself. So we're,
Okay.
there's a whiteboard, and we're looking at everything at the moment and just trying to find the right fit.
More surprises, I think, John, is what you're probably going to spring on us at some point. More surprises, but in terms of the that accelerated adoption of ETGs during the pandemic, you've always been a person that's kind of gone through the stats and the figures and the reasons why and the background to all of these things. And I was wondering what have been the drivers for that quickly, and do you think it's going to stick? Is this a permanent change now in terms of the attitudes of operators and the way that players actually interact with ETGs as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. In 2015, when I was, when we had sold Ballet to Scientific Games, Ron Perlman, looking at the casino floor in the industry and trying to find an area that, at least from my perspective, was at its infancy, something that really could grow. I looked at the live table games. As Bally, it was one area we were trying to evolve. We were trying to implement technology, and we were at its infancy. So electronic table games, to me, at the time, was less than 0.1% of a casino floor in North America. Yet in Asia, it was broaching 10%. So I found it fascinating that the trajectory that you could see in a table game had a lot of but technology was at its infancy, and quite frankly, we didn't understand ETGs very well. There was very little market studies, very little research. So fast forward to today, and I think that relative to table games and the operator and players mentality, a couple things have happened. I felt it was our responsibility to diversify our portfolio from just statistically one product, a mechanical roulette, and try some other horizontal offerings. Fast forward, I won't waste too much time here, but fast forward to today, 6 years later, we've realized that there are many different demographics, both traditional players and non-traditional players that come on casino floors that enjoy different distribution methods of the same game. Meaning some people like to play a mechanical roulette on the 6-8 seat generator you'd find, and a social atmosphere evolved into a single seat distribution method, play by yourself at a much faster pace. We'll be launching other demographic categories here at G2E this year. So what we found is that there's a player base that's more sophisticated and much more segments, similar to slots. When you think about slots, you have penny slots, you have dollar slots, you have steppers, reels, you have high limit. I equate electronic table games and the amount of segmentation needed to support that business as complex but exciting. And then on the reverse side, the operators over the past 6 years, have really, I think, come a long way with us in understanding the benefits from a cost reduction standpoint, what technology can do in generating more handle, higher house advantage, but yet a good player experience and profitability. The analogy I always use, Louis, is if you think about the airline industry 10 years ago, when you and I would travel around the world to St. Petersburg and various places, we'd stand in a queue with, tons of attendants behind counters. Fast forward to today, there's kiosks. So I think we're heading in that direction, and I think operators are embracing that, and that's hence part of the momentum we see.
Okay, I wanted to get to GT in a second, but before I completely leave the Oaktree side and the acquisition, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of almost a personal question, really, from my side, is when it was announced, when you joined Interblock in 2015, I can remember thinking and interviewing and speaking to you at the time, I thought this wouldn't have been a 7-year kind of process for you. I thought, you were in it. You were going to be in 2 to 3 years, and this business was going to be turned around, and it was ready. It was ready for sale, and it was going to be, the announcement. What's been the journey? The 7-year journey that you've had in terms of your, reshaping, restructuring, but also, you must have, for you to have stayed in the business for this last 7 years, you must have enjoyed yourself in the process as well. And I'm guessing that's been, the journey too.
So you're absolutely correct in your first statement. Is that when I joined with the founder, it was a 3-year commitment, and at the end of 3 years, we'd achieved our objectives, and we did actually start the process of trying to sell, which can take a while, about a year or so. And then COVID hit, which prolonged things in the licensing. But the reason I see, myself staying and, hopefully retiring from Interblock in the future is we've really just skimmed the surface. The more I learned about, I saw potential in the company, but the more I learned the past, 5 or 6 years, and the more I see this area of the casino floor and gaming evolving and what this company could be, there's no place personally I'd rather be. I can't see myself wanting to be anywhere else. And the team that we built here is I think one of the best group of gaming experts and innovators I've ever worked with. And the industry seems to be, and the players, as I mentioned, we're somewhat just beginning the adventure. So to leave now, I feel like I'm leaving really in the beginning, not in the middle or towards the end. So I don't mind leaving in the middle, but I don't know if I want to leave in such an early stage.
Okay, that's a great answer. Thanks for that as well, going through that, John. In terms of G2E and what we've got coming up, I was going to ask you. Obviously, we've had the pandemic, and also you've been going through, obviously, actually sealing up the deal with Oaktree at the same time. Never the best time to be creating new products. Never, getting everybody into an environment and going through the R&D. Has Interblock been able to actually invest and put in? Are we going to see, really what the best can come from Interblock at G2E in just about 6 or 7 weeks' time?
We used the COVID, and Oaktree was in the licensing process, and we had, without getting into details, we had access to as much capital as we needed during COVID. So we utilized that to enhance our R&D. We've tripled R&D in the past 36 months. And a lot of those products we innovated, we felt it was just premature to bring them to market globally. And we're using this G2E as really a catalyst to take, in some cases, 3 years of innovation and introduce it to the marketplace. So we'll have over 30 new products, features, functionality at this year's show. 30, I think over 33 individual product offerings. And when I compare that to 5 years ago, we were pretty much one.
Sure.
So very excited, and we'll be launching a 4th product category for our company. Historically, we've most recently been, stadiums, standalones, and universal cabinets. We'll be launching a 4th at this year's G2E. So no, I think this will be one of our biggest G2Es ever. And I would say not just from a new product perspective. When you think about gaming, a lot of people like, what's your new product? What's your new slot machine? Sure. I would say this year is a paradigm shift for electronic table games, at least from Interblock, because we took the past couple years and really started to look at the inner workings of ETGs from a mathematical perspective, how to make an ETG generate more handle, higher house advantage, and a better player experience through various distribution methods, as I was explaining. So I think the sophistication of our products and what they'll be able to derive both from a player experience and an operator, I would equate it to night and day for Interblock. I think when people see where we've come and what we'll be offering on our products at this year's G2E versus a year ago, I'll be interested in the feedback.
Okay. And I mean, the way the US market seems to have rebounded from COVID seems extraordinary. And it in one sense, it doesn't feel as though it's fully filtered down to the rest of your markets, and certainly from the EMEA side, we're seeing a kind of slower return. But I mean, the state of the US market at the moment, is that sustainable, John? Is this something that we're going to see into 2023, 2024? I've just been writing stories about record Indian gaming revenues. The AGA just brought out record operator revenues in the first quarter. Is this a sustainable path? Because obviously, in terms of you've always been a bellwether for us in terms of kind of guiding through what you see and you see kind of coming along. Do you see this as G2E is one of the biggest shows that we've yet seen, and that will then press into next year as well?
Well, I'll answer that in two perspectives. One, obviously from Interblock, we were concerned post-COVID when live table games opened back up, was that tremendous growth surge we had going to sustain itself? And the answer is yes. I mean, the Eilers report came out with some recent data from North America, very interesting, and I can share that we're seeing the same trends that they shared. The players that tried ETGs during COVID didn't all of them go back to a live table game. They found that an ETG was more conducive to their play style, their needs, wants, enjoyment, entertainment. So that's fantastic. The fact that I mentioned earlier too, that we're still 1% of the North American market versus over 14% in Asia, I think that speaks for itself. The industry as a whole, and the trajectory, I think we're going to see a lot more consolidation, if you want my opinion. I think we're going to start to see, despite the fears of recession, I think the amount of capital investment you're going to see on the Las Vegas Strip, which is always a good indicator, is going to be shocking to a lot of people. I don't think most people know what's coming, but there are several multi-billion-dollar facilities in the works at the moment, in the planning stages, quietly behind the scenes. I think that will shock people. And quite frankly, I think the casino operators are healthier than ever. I think COVID was an amazing opportunity for them to right the ship. They did a fantastic job, and they're now using that cash flow to reinvest in the right ways and new ways for the future. So I'm very bullish on the gaming sector. I think, there was 10 years ago, we kept talking about we need something to bring new players onto the casino floor. I think casinos have done a very good job of getting new players to come into their casinos and start to step on those floors. And I think casinos getting into the online space, I think we're going to see that evolve tremendously over the coming years, where instead of it us and them, it's going to be the casinos are going to start to integrate there as well, and that's going to be a whole new evolution to watch for the future.
I think that's a perfect note to end on there, John. All I would say is I'm looking forward to meeting you in Vegas again after this kind of long break, this long enforced break. And in the meantime, good luck with all the preparations. I'm looking forward to interviewing and having a chat to Marco as well. And thank you for participating in the podcast, John. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Lewis. Look forward to seeing you in Vegas here soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Bye.